Hello, good afternoon. Taking it easy here in the backyard. Wanted to take a little bit of time today to talk about a shoe brand I've been using quite a bit for about the last 2 years called Topo Athletic. Topo Athletic is a smaller shoe company, primarily based on online. I've been using their shoes for both daily running, around town, and then for backpacking and trail running, and really been liking the shoes. For a long time I used Solomon shoes. I had a couple of Ultra shoes. I used to run in Nikes, so I've had a kind of a variety of different shoes, but really kind of got stuck on Topo here in the last 2 years. Topo believes kind of in 3 major design philosophies. So taking a look at one of their shoes, they believe in 3 things. So one is a roomy toe box, so the area up here is a little bit wider than what you're going to find on most shoes, similar to some Ultras if you're used to that. And that wider toe box allows for your toes to kind of splay out and spread when you're running or hiking. 2, they believe in a secure fit over the midfoot and over the heel. So I really always feel like my heel is really well locked in, and it's got good tension here on the laces, but allows the toes to move. And then the 3rd thing is a low heel to toe drop. And when I say low heel to toe, I mean the height from here to here is relatively low. For instance, this shoe is 5 millimeters, so this side of the shoe is 5 millimeters taller than this front, but still 5 millimeters is relatively low. Some of the shoes we're going to look at today are 3 millimeters or even 0, so that the back of the shoe and the front are the exact same. A couple of things to mention about all these shoes we're going to talk about today is they're all size 10.5, and I'll go through and kind of give my couple of thoughts, not like a really in-depth review, but just a couple of thoughts, experiences, and I'll go over how long I've had the shoe. So up first today, we're going to go through 3 different running shoes, and then we'll go through 2 of their trail runners. The running shoes, the first one and the one I've had the longest is called the Ultrafly. This shoe I've had now for about 1.5 years. I have 274 running miles on it, so it's been kind of a daily trainer. It's a good shoe. It's a little bit more heavy. It's got a little bit more stability versus some of the other shoes, and it's got a little bit firmer foam. But it's a good kind of all-around daily trainer. Any of my easy days, any of my long days, any of my non-interval days, I kind of reach for this. Anything where I'm going to be running on cement or asphalt a lot, I always run for this. It has a hardened kind of heel counter here that really locks the foot down and provides really good stability in the forefoot. It's a 5 millimeter drop, so the distance from here to here, it's a 5 millimeter drop, and it's holding up really well. I mean, I'm getting close to 300 miles. I'll probably put 400, maybe 450 on it, but the underneath tread is good. All the Topo shoes, they use kind of like a combination of rubber overlays on top of foam. I was initially concerned about this, that it would like fall off, delaminate, unstick, and I haven't had one shoe out of my 5 or 6 shoes do that. So this rubber kind of glued to the foam has been good for both on and off trail. This is the first shoe I like this. This is my daily runner, long miles, easy miles, compact stuff like concrete. This is definitely a good shoe. Next shoe is the Fli-Lyte. This is probably the lightest weight shoe that I have from them. And it comes in at just 18 ounces for the pair. Again, size 10.5. This has a 3 millimeter drop, so the distance from here to here is 3 millimeters. It may not look like that in the camera because we kind of have this heel or this arch part that goes up, but it's 3 millimeter drop. These are my like around town shoes. So if I have to go like walk around a lot, or I'm going to go to walk the dog, go to a zoo, something like that. I use these as kind of around town. They look a little bit more casual than some of the bright green and blue pairs. They're pretty nondescript with being black and white. I use these also a lot of times with travel. If I'm trying to travel light and on an airplane, don't have a room for a lot of shoes, I'll use this as my around town, go to the gym and do a light run type of shoe. I don't track miles on this shoe, whereas with the other 2 shoes that I dedicate to running, I track miles, but I've had this shoe now for 6 or 7 months. Showing some signs of wear. I typically have wear kind of right here in the middle. One thing that I would like to see in some of their shoes is where I typically wear is right here, right in the forefoot, and that's where the foam is. I get less and less wear up here, but the foam right here, I haven't had a problem with that, but that's just where I get most of the wear. But these are good shoes. They're a little bit stiffer. They're not real springy, I feel like some of the other ones, but they do a really good job of locking the foot in. They have a pretty, like, I don't know if what this material is, but like this hardened amount here fabric that kind of locks your foot in. Starting to get a little bit of wear in the back of the heel cup. It is pretty slender, I would say. If you have like a wider foot or like a big Achilles tendon, it might not fit the well, but for my feet, it fits awesome. So I like this shoe. It's good daily driver. Next shoe is the Topo Athletic Fli-Lyte. I like this shoe quite a bit. I've got, let's see, 140 miles on this. This is typically like shorter runs, interval runs. I would use this for race. It's light and it's zero drop. So the distance from here to here, it's the same level platform. I've used zero drop shoes off and on now for like 3 or 4 years, so I'm pretty used to it. I know sometimes when people get zero drop shoes, they complain about ankle problems or having to change their stride length or stuff like that. But for me, this is one of my favorite shoes. I didn't weigh it this morning because it's soaking wet and it's muddy because I went for a run this morning, but really like this shoe. Side note for any runners, I've been using the Stride Pod, which is a power meter now. I've been using that now for about 6 months. Really like it. It's definitely some really good data if anyone's into running. I've been getting more and more into running. It started kind of as a conditioning thing for backpacking and stuff, but now I enjoy it quite a bit. But anyways, this little foot pod, it's a Stride power meter. Pretty cool. Allows you to have some really cool data points when you're running and setting up your training plans. But I like these. I actually like the mesh knit upper on the Fli-Lytes here, probably the best. It has great breathability, dries pretty quick. Ran through some grass and mud today, so that's why it's a little wet right now. But this is a really good shoe. It's really light. The foam is very light and springy in it. It's a little bit different than the other ones. I don't like doing really long runs with this on concrete because it feels like it's lacking a little bit of oomph to it, or a little structure or something like that. It kind of feels like you're, I don't want to say running barefoot. This is a 25 millimeter deep shoe, so it's not barefoot by any means, but it just doesn't feel super padded. So I use this and do a lot of my interval type stuff on dirt pathways or like compressed gravel. So it works really well for that. Okay, let's switch over to trail running shoes. I use these for primarily backpacking, day hiking, and trail running. The first shoe is the one I've had the longest. This is the MTN Racer. They've since come out with a MTN Racer 2. I definitely want to check that out because it looked like they improved some of the faults that I had with this shoe. But overall, love this shoe. I know I have at least 130 miles on it, and that's when I started tracking mileage on it. But real mileage is probably well over 200 because I didn't track it for the first like 6 months I had it. So it's been well used. This is a very stiff, firm shoe. This back, it has like 3 different densities of foam in it, or at least 2. It's got like this red stuff is really firm, and then it's got it like going all the way under here. So it really feels like this is a super planted platform. It has like very little bouncy, springy rebound. It's a very stiff platform for a trail running shoe. It's not like boot-like stiff, but for a running shoe, it's got some torsional rigidity there. It is a 30 in the back, and I think a 25 in the front, so it's a 5 millimeter drop. I use this shoe all the time off trail. So anytime I'm doing off trail, peak bagging, rock, scree fields, that kind of stuff, A+, awesome shoe. It feels planted, it feels stiff. The front is still got some stiffness. You can like push off and leverage off of it, and it feels good. I don't run in this shoe a lot, but I definitely do a lot of the hiking and boulder hopping and scrambling. And with this foot feeling planted and secured, it really feels really good. So this is my favorite. My negatives with this shoe, and I don't know if you can see it in the camera here, but you can see how it's like all like smashed down here and it's getting this weird crease. It doesn't really matter when you put it on your foot, but it just looks really weird. Like it's like completely sunken in. The fabric's weird. This fabric reminds me a lot of my Solomon Speed Cross I used to use quite a bit. It's like a real durable, abrasion resistant nylon, and then it's got a lot of TPU overlay, so it's like a very durable outsole. Like I haven't had any issues with it at all. So it's held up good. The only durability things with this I've had is it's starting to like the back of the heel cup right here is starting to wear a little bit, and my ankle bone apparently rubs on the top bit right here, and it's starting to get a little bit worn, the padding, but it's not that bad. I changed the shoelaces out for 550 cord. I didn't like the original shoelaces because they were like massively too long. I don't know why shoe manufacturers make shoelaces so long, but I made these a lot shorter. It just makes them so that they don't hang out underneath the gaiter when I'm running, and they don't get like stuck on sticks and stuff, and there's just less shoelace because you don't need that much. Breathability, it's okay. This thing gets wet. It's going to stay wetter than something with an open-aired mesh, but what you do retain is a really super durable upper and just a great overall shoe. So one of my favorites. The tread is wearing pretty good. It's Vibram Mega Grip tread. That tread, again, probably somewhere over 200, 225 miles on it, and it's still got plenty of life left. So I do like this. Again, I mentioned this is a trail running shoe that you can see that's foam. The little lugs are rubber, so it's rubber over foam, and it's not starting to fall off, delaminate, nothing coming off. The only thing is that the toe bumper is maybe just starting to flake just a little bit, which always happens in shoes. Overall, one of my favorites, really good durable compound, the Vibram Mega Grip, and it's holding up pretty well. Next shoe is the Terraventure 2. I know they've launched the Terraventure 3, so I wanted to get out and at least get my thoughts out on this one. I have logged miles on this, about 160 or so. I used this for our Ray Lakes loop that I did with Kelsey. This is probably the longest trip I had with these. But these are the ones I typically pick up for day hikes, trail runs. I just kind of like these as my overall, like, not sure what to grab. I grab these. They're a little bit more springy, a little bit more compliant. They're not nearly as stiff as a ride as the Mountain Racer. They do breathe better. This is an open-aired knit mesh at the top. So they do breathe a little bit better. It's still got plenty of like the TPU overlay here on the edges, which protects it really well. I haven't had any issues with the open mesh wearing. It's starting to get like a little bit of wear right here on the edge, but it's pretty minor. So good shoe. It does drain well. It's also got, I like this, I think the Mountain Racer has this too. It's here on the edge. There's these little vents, and those vents do allow water to kind of to drain out well. The other thing I would mention too about Topo shoes is they have, I used to go through footbeds all the time in Solomon's. This footbed it looks fine. They're all about the same. I can't really tell a difference between their different shoes, but the top material, like, it looks like it has zero wear. It's got a pretty good impression on my foot. It's got dirt and stuff on the bottom, but the footbeds, they hold up well. I haven't had an issue with the footbeds falling apart, or a massive problem I used to have with my Salomon shoes is the footbeds folding up. I used to have accordion issues that if the shoe was soaked, they would accordion up. Haven't had any issue with any of these shoes, and all of them have been submerged in water. Even the normal running shoes get sometimes pretty wet when I go for runs in the rain and stuff. So good shoe. I think the rubber compound is the same on this. It's the same tread pattern. Pretty much all their trail shoes use the same tread pattern. This one you can kind of more easily see where the foam is and where the rubber is, but this one is wearing pretty good. I think it's, honestly, I feel like it's wearing slower than the other shoes, but I've worn these less on like Sierra Granite Talasea type trips, so I think I walk more in dirt on these, so they're lasting a little bit better. But I love the shoe. Overall, it's a good shoe. It's a little, I think it's a titch heavier than the Mountain Racer. I weighed them, and this is like 2 ounce, per pair. This is like 3 ounces lighter than this. So this is a little bit heavier, but this is a little bit more, it feels more cushioned, even though it's, I think, less foam, but it feels more cushioned, and this is pretty stiff. So anyways, like this, good all around, good shoe, good for wet, good for draining, good for hot. Okay for off-road, just I like those better because they're even more firm. But for running, for general trail use, and for wet use, I would use the Terraventure 2. And they just came out with a Terraventure 3 that looks pretty similar, but they changed it up a bit. I do want to try out their new Mountain Racer. I think when these kick the bucket later this year, I will definitely be replacing these with the new Mountain Racer. A couple of closing thoughts. A few negatives first about Topo is, one, you primarily can only buy their shoes on the internet. They do sometimes sell some, but not all of their models at different REIs, but that I've gone to different REIs, and that's a bit of a hit or miss, and not everyone's close to an REI. They do have like a 30-day return policy on their website, which is good, And something they do that I wish a lot of other companies would do is they have like a grading scale where they talk about the shoe, and they'll talk about cushion, support, and pliability. And once you have like one or two of their shoes, you can kind of understand where the shoe you have is on that scale, and then go, okay, do I want a stiffer shoe, a cushier shoe, something with more or less cushion? It's kind of helpful, that little scale. I wish that was more like a universal scale, or other companies had something more like that, because I found that really helpful. Now that I have a couple, I can kind of go like, okay, I want a stiffer shoe or a softer one. I can kind of figure that out. Sizing wise, this might help people. I wear a 10.5 in pretty much everything. All of my Solomon shoes, all of my like any other shoes I have, like casual dress shoes, things like that, almost always 10.5. So if that helps you out. One thing I would mention is that if you're coming from other shoe brands, the biggest drop they have on any of their shoes is 5mm, with most of the shoes being 3 or 0mm. I've actually gone to the point now where I like feel awkward wearing anything above 5mm drop. So I put on, I tried some Solomon boots with the canoe trip I did with Joe, and those are like 11, 12mm drop. I felt like I was on stilts. So once you start going towards zero drop shoes, you tend to want all your shoes to be less of a drop. That's just my personal preference. You can tell me I'm nuts, but most all of my shoes now have very minimal drops, and that's just kind of what I'm used to. And when I wear something that's not like that, it makes me feel really strange. So that's one thing since I've converted in the past 4 or 5 years. The other negative I would mention with Topo is their color selection is like moderate. A lot of times you get a color. Like right now, the new Mountain Racer, the Mountain Racer 2, it comes in one color, which is bright like orangey yellow, and that's it. So I think with the company probably being smaller, you get a little bit less color choice. You gotta kind of go with what they got, and some of the color palettes they choose, I'm always kind of like, that doesn't look great, guys. What were you thinking? So those are only my two negatives: availability, and then trying to get a color that you like. Sometimes it's not that important. I don't really care what I look like when I go for a run, but some people, that might be a bigger issue. So those are just my thoughts. Hopefully that's helpful. I just wanted to bring awareness of this brand, and because I really like their stuff, so I want them to continue to make great shoes and for people to go buy them. I like their design philosophy. I think they have a pretty good selection of shoes, and it's nice to have found a brand that really fits my foot and fits the way I like shoes to fit. So yeah, go check them out, Topo Athletic. If you guys have any questions or want more in-depth information on any one of these shoes, feel free to put them in the comments. Thanks a lot for watching.